Hey everybody, Steve here with Local Level Podcast. I'm sitting here with Dave Pedersen of Bigby's Poorhouse. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. And can you give us a little bit of history of Bigbys?
Bigbys.
I did it again. I swear. And we were just talking before this that there's no X in the middle.
No S in the middle.
There's no X or S in the middle. So it's Bigbys of
Yes.
Rolling Meadows.
So Bigbys opened, it'll be almost 10 years ago in Addison. Addison was the first location for Bigbys.
Got it.
And then about 5 years ago, they opened up Rolling Meadows, where we are in this town now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a craft beer bar, so we serve several different breweries, and it's been a wonderful little place for people to go who love craft beer. Craft beer has been on a big boom for the past, probably 15 years.
Right.
Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
So they're a trend getting away from all the big guys and moving into these small craft breweries that are out there right now.
So, craft brewery, you got two locations, and when we were talking before, you didn't start out in this industry. A lot of people do. They start out and they work their way up, through all the way to where you're at, where you own not just two locations, but two different businesses themselves. You own another place in Hoffman Estates.
Another bar in Hoffman, yep.
Nice. So, the story that you have, because we were talking before, and you got your start at a really young age.
Yeah, when I was 12, my dad said to me one day, he goes, "Why don't you go see if the neighbors need their grass cut?" So I walked next door, I knocked on their door, and asked them if they wanted the grass cut. They said yes, and that summer I knocked on every single door in our neighborhood and made $2,500 my first summer at the age of 12. Then by the time I was 14, I had my friends working for me, and we would ride our bikes and pull our lawnmowers behind us, cut the grass, do our thing, and it was great. It worked out really well with a school schedule for a kid my age.
Yeah.
Because the primary, the grass cutting season was when you're on summer break.
Yeah.
So did that until for about 7 years, and then got into the valet parking business I had told you about, and started that this month, which is October, 28 years ago.
Jeez.
So we had a restaurant open up in South Barrington, and I thought back then, what a great combination, because I was too young to understand the whole restaurant world and going out world, because I was still a teenager. And so I thought that people only valeted in the wintertime, and this restaurant was opening up in October, right when the landscaping was coming to an end.
Yeah, so it just kind of fell into place a little bit.
Fell into place really well. So did them together for about 3 years, and then decided to get rid of the landscaping and lawn maintenance stuff. That was a seasonal thing. I didn't like snow plowing. I didn't want to get into snow plowing. I didn't like the idea of 24-hour call. It's either feast or famine with snow plowing. Either it's a crazy season or you're wondering where the snow is. So, anyways, did the valet parking, and I still have that. And then 13 years ago, I opened up the restaurant in Hoffman Estates.
And what's that called?
First Place Sports Bar.
First Place.
Nice.
And so, I mean, it's safe to say you're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, you started at the age of 12, and most kids, they go to school, maybe they work a little side job here and there, but you kept going. You kept going with it, and you brought us all the way to the point where you opened a restaurant. So there's a big difference between cutting lawn, doing valet, and then owning a restaurant.
Yeah.
So what was that process? I guess the better question is, what did you learn each step of the way that brought you to the next step?
Ooh.
I like that. That's a good response. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of different things that were learned along the way.
Yeah.
Staff is so important. Initiative, drive, and without the initiative and drive, it's so difficult to run your own business and do your thing.
Of course.
So I mean, if I'm trying to think of different things that I would have picked up along the way.
Well, let's do it one at a time. So when you're 12, you're learning a lot of things all at once. But to jump into business and actually being successful at it, because elaborate a little bit, you actually had employees. You had people working for you. This wasn't just like, you're cutting grass or something. It was a bigger operation than that. So, I guess, was there something that maybe drew people to you? Was it your motivation, your drive? Reflecting on that, what do you think that might have been?
I never thought about that, but that is definitely something that for sure I think was a big part of it, because I've been very lucky with that my whole life, with people just having that natural just chemistry with me and the been drawn to me. Yeah. So I don't know. But still, as I'm trying to think of different things along the way, there's nothing specific. It was always just seeing what needed to be done and doing it. Not
taking action.
It's never complaining about it. It was just doing it. It wasn't. And I couldn't isolate individual things along the way other than just I saw a demand and I did it.
Yeah. Well, that's what business is, really. I mean, it's identifying a need and then providing what the solution is for that need. Now, doing that at such a young age, there had to be some sort of role model or something.
My dad.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure,
what did your dad do?
He was self-employed for many years in my early life, and he was in the entertainment business. So it was instinctive for him to say to me that day, like, why don't you go see if the neighbors need their grass cut? You know? My grandfather, when we were 10, or when I was 10, there was a big church that was opening up right by our house called Will Creek Community Church.
Okay.
And my grandfather said, why don't you go over there and get a job? Now, in today's day and age, you don't see parents or grandparents looking at a 10-year-old saying, why don't you go get a job somewhere? Yeah. It just doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. And he told me to do that, and I said, okay.
Right. Let's listen to your grandfather, right?
I grabbed my buddy Matt, and the two of us walked over to this church, because it was walking distance. You could see the church from our house.
Sure.
And we got there, and we came across a couple of guys. One of them, his name was Joel Jager. He'll always be imprinted in my heart.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine his thought when a 10-year-old, and my buddy Matt was 8 at the time, come walking up, and they said, hey, guys, how can we help you?
Yeah.
And he said, we want to get a job. And you could see the smile on their face, like, all right. There wasn't even a, all right, well.
What kind of interview are you going to do? Yeah. You don't have a resume at that point.
They weren't even hesitant about it. They said, no problem, come on. And I'm sure, being in a church environment, they were used to, people volunteering and,
there's always a need
for the church, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, we, it started at that age, of my grandfather saying, why don't you go see if you can get a job over there? And then my dad, when I was 12, and said, why don't you go next door and see if the neighbors need their grass cut?
Yeah.
It was they never made us or made me do anything. It was always, why don't you just go see? Yeah. And I took that with the knocking on my neighbor's door to, I knocked on every door. There was probably, 300 homes.
Yeah.
That every house, I knocked on every door and asked if they need their grass cut. And it was just a good time and a good place. And of course, I wasn't charging, my neighbors, and they paid me $5.
It's really funny you brought that up, because I was just talking, we, pay somebody to do our lawn, because I'm too lazy. And so I was talking, I was like, the only knock that I want on my door is for a kid to knock and say, hey, can I mow your lawn? Or can I shovel the snow? Uh-huh. Because number one, just like you, nobody wants to do residential snow plowing.
Right.
Because, why would you? It's crazy. But a kid with a shovel, I would be more than happy to pay I would honestly pay the same amount, is what I'm paying if the job gets done right, and it's going to a good cause. I mean, I think that anybody that's realistic would rather hire a neighborhood kid.
Absolutely.
And like you said, you don't see that at all. You don't see that anymore. I mean, and we live in a neighborhood. I mean, Rolling Meadows here. There's kids all over the place, and none of them are out. I mean, you see them riding their bike every now and then or something, but none of them are out doing what you're doing. It used to be like that. I remember when I was a kid, I would be looking for little odd jobs around the neighborhood, to make a few bucks to buy whatever. But it seems like the culture's changed. Why do you think that is?
That is a great question. That's I have no clue as to why the generations are changing like this. But and to what you said a second ago, I was leaving my house the other day, and I was driving down the street, and I saw a dad with his son, and they both had lawnmowers. So I stopped the car, backed up, I rolled down the window, and said, "Hey, are you guys looking to do exactly the same thing you just said?" I was like, "Are you guys looking to do other grass in the neighborhood? Because I was right now, I'd love to have them do it, And they said, unfortunately, no, they were just cutting their grass.
Oh, man.
But the dad looked at the son and said, like, do you want to do it?
Go ahead and take the lead on this one, right?
The son didn't jump. And I said, well, no problem. I said, I'm at the end of the street. If you guys decide you want to do it, or him, I said, if you decide you want to do it, just come on down and let me know.
Right.
But I'm the same way. If a kid came knocking on my door for something like that, I'd be like, yeah.
100%. Yeah. Why not?
You can start today.
Yeah. There's something to be done. It's crazy how things change like that, and I'm sure that ties into what you do now with finding good employees. People nowadays don't have that.
Good employees are hard to find.
Yes, they are, and the work ethic isn't the same as it used to be. I mean, you don't get work ethic from school.
The same.
I think that. This is just a opinion or maybe a guess, but I think that the level of education that people have, maybe going to college and think, that's the goal instead of getting to work. I think that's what changed culture, because everybody thinks that, well, I have a degree, so but you never learned how to work for somebody, which is, that's how you do it. That's where the success that actually comes from.
I never really thought about it that way, but yeah, that's probably playing a big part of this whole next generation. Because you're right. The whole thing was always, college, go to school, instead of get out there and work.
Yeah.
Another quick little story. One of my customers at the Barnhoffman Estates, he's an older guy, probably in his mid-60s or so. He used to work at a place in Schaumburg, and he was telling me, I forgot how we got on the topic, but he was telling me that he had a job at a young age, and his dad had changed his birth certificate so that he could get this job. And going right back to today, when was the last time that you and I, in the past 10 years, heard of a parent saying to their kid at 15, like, look, let's go out and get you a job. We'll lie about your age. We'll get you in there, have you start working, and that doesn't exist anymore. Well, even when they're 16 and 17. I'm lucky with the valet. I work primarily with an age group of like 17 to 27. It's kind of like the sweet spot.
Yeah, sure.
I'm lucky if one out of 20 different employees that I employ end up being somebody that you and I would look at and go, wow, this guy is a star. I mean, he's got the drive, he's got the motivation, always ready to go.
You don't see a lot of that. You see people that are trained how to appear that way, though, unfortunately. And then when it comes to actually doing it, it doesn't happen. Incidentally, going back to the other point, what we do see is, like, I don't know if you paid attention to the admissions scandal. They're getting, a sentence now for that. But that's going back to, it would be much better if they actually got him a job instead of cheating to get into something, fake that doesn't mean anything. And a lot of people that I've talked to are reconsidering the whole is college a necessity type of thing. What are your thoughts on that?
I just 2 weeks ago was having a conversation with somebody about it, ironically.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how, because I have a 6-year-old daughter, and we were talking about how by the time she gets to college age, how expensive college is going to be.
Yeah.
And the guy I was talking to made a comment. He said, the tides are going to turn to debating whether or not the 4 years of missed income that you make, or
and
that
just
you,
debt.
that you lose,
Yeah.
and accumulate all the debt for college, what's going to be worth more?
Yeah.
Because if somebody could come out of high school and make $30,000 a year times 4 years, it's $120,000.
Mm-hmm. Get started.
And if they're $200,000 in debt when they come out of college, it's a $320,000 swing. How many years you have to work to offset that? And
also, you're competing against a whole group of people that have the same credentials you have, so they become almost. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's just in debt and has no skills, and you end up working at Starbucks, which there's nothing wrong with working at Starbucks, but you didn't go to school to work at Starbucks.
Exactly.
And
so
you
you
didn't
lost
get into
those
debt.
4 years,
right?
When you could have been working somewhere, doing something, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do too with the fact that there's so many jobs that were taken by immigrants coming into the country.
Yeah.
That a lot of people just didn't think they should do those jobs anymore.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And that combined with the increasing need for all the different trades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a flip, because now you have an overabundance of college-educated people that are competing for the same pool of jobs, and now you don't have any skilled people to handle the skilled trades. And so those people that went to school and got in debt, they're doing jobs that they're not qualified for, actually doing the skilled labor jobs, or they don't have work ethic or experience. And that's a huge problem. I mean, it's just getting worse. We're digging ourselves deeper and deeper in that. Now I can go on and on and on about this stuff, but getting a little bit back to the your our level here. How do you, knowing all this stuff, what would you say is your management style? What do you look for in somebody? How do you vet people? Do you just give them a chance and see what happens, or how does that process work?
I feel like when I meet somebody, I know in the first 5 minutes what sort of drive and what sort of initiative they have. I definitely feel like a large, maybe not large, but a good chunk of the workforce that you and I might come across, that we'd be like, wow, this person has some initiative and drive.
Yeah.
A lot of it stems from their own personal need.
Yeah.
So take a girl who might have a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe she didn't have the initiative and the drive before the child, but now she's got the child and says,
it's do or die.
I have to go to work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a choice. Like, what hours do you have? I'll take whatever you have.
Right.
As opposed to the initiative and drive in somebody before, being proactive before they get to the needs in life, apartment and cars. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I feel like as soon as I meet somebody, I'll know in the first 5 minutes what sort of
or
determination
at least
and
enough
drive
for
they
your
have.
liking, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
right? For your, just the pre-qualification. Then it's about action. That's interesting. That is really true, though, because when you don't really have a reason to either sink or swim, it's a lot harder to make it, to make it work. And that is another entrepreneurial thing, and I hate that word. But it's when you go into your own thing and you're not working for somebody else, and you don't have the option to just switch companies and work for, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's your life's work. That's a really big leap of faith. That's a really big. It takes a lot to be able to do that, and it's not for everybody. Obviously you had an experience, growing up, but what made you decide, I'm I'm just going to do this. I'm going to open a restaurant, after those other things on my own, not going to work for somebody else, not going to, work my way up in the restaurant business, just do it. What was that about?
Well, what transitioned me from the landscaping, lawn maintenance into the valet was just a seasonal thing. Once again, I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
That first season of valet parking from October to March, when March rolled around and my landscaping would be getting ready to start back up, this restaurant was only getting busier. They went through the first 7 years of just unprecedented growth for a small individual and restaurant.
Right.
So that transition was just because I needed something to do in the wintertime. Prior to the valet, I would just go wherever my friends got a job and work wherever they were working in the wintertime. While I was in school, I was in high school, and I would go and get a job wherever they were. I actually worked at Portillo's. Portillo's is one of the places I worked at, and I definitely learned a lot of valuable things from Portillo's.
Sure.
Their standards are, as you know, everybody knows Portillo's in this area.
Yeah.
Are second to none, and I learned that that's an important part of business. Like, they don't compromise anything.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that, because they are. We love Portillo's as a Chicagoan, but when you go to one, you can expect a level of quality. At any of them. So that is interesting. And
so that was one of my winter jobs before the valet. But then the transition from the valet, I was working at restaurants. Like, we had several different restaurants and nightclubs and banquet halls, private events at people's homes. So I was very exposed to the industry, to restaurants and bars. And one of my very good friends, his dad owned a restaurant already.
Mm-hmm.
They were thinking of opening up the one in Hoffman Estates, and they said, would you be interested? And of course I was interested, because I was already so...
Yeah, you were entrenched in it already.
So that transition to, from the landscaping to the valet to the restaurant, and it was just always, it's a natural progression.
Yeah. So what did you do when you started there at the Hoffman Estates place? Were you in a management level, or were you just working there?
Oh no, we built it.
Oh, you built it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. So that was it right there.
We had taken a space that was a restaurant prior to us, and gutted it out.
Gotcha.
And built the sports bar.
And how long ago was that?
This past June was our 13-year anniversary.
Congrats.
But it was right around November, December, 14 years ago, that we started the planning for it.
Sure.
And we opened in June of the following year.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a lot of hard work to keep a place open for 5 years, let alone 13. They say most of them close within the first 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, the number one failing business in the country, and it's people always from the outside, when they see a restaurant or a bar or a sports bar or anything, they always see the glitz and the glamour of it. Talking to people and interacting, but they forget what goes on the other side of the walls over here, with the kitchen and with your books and with liquor and with beer, employees.
Yeah.
All those things add up to a lot of headaches, and it's for the most part, most restaurants, it's a nickel and dime business. It's micromanaging. It's, for example, if a server grabs a stack of napkins and brings it to a table, and the manager says, "Hey, you brought too many napkins to that table. There's only 2 people.
Yeah.
You brought 10 napkins," and the server, in her head, rolls her eyes and thinks, it's 5 cents of napkins.
Yeah.
What they don't understand is that there's 10 employees, and how many guys in the kitchen, bartenders. If everybody is wasting just simply $1 a day, at the end of the year, all of a sudden that added up to thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's so hard for people to comprehend that. They think it's,
I know.
They think you're micromanaging. They think that you're nitpicking, and they don't understand that it's not about. We're not going to pay the rent because we saved you from serving an extra 8 napkins.
Yeah.
But if that manager saves $20 100 times a month, that's $2,000. $20 is very attainable for
Sure.
somebody to pay attention to what's happening, whether they're watching a bartender overpour a drink, whether too many fries are coming out on a plate when the kitchen guys, put the fries on the plate to go out,
Right.
to napkins. And I mean, it's
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think that just for a lot of it, even office supplies go missing, number one, all the
Oh
time.
my gosh.
Post-it notes, especially pens.
The bleeding that happens in corporate America
Yes.
in the office environment has got to be staggering.
And nobody, I've never really, very rarely have I had somebody explain why people are stingy about those things as an employee. At an employee level, you don't really get that understanding. And then I think that's kind of the root of animosity sometimes. And people kind of think, well, this guy's just being, but that's how the roof is, over their head. So yeah, I wonder if that might be something that'd be important to kind of explain that sometimes more to employees to make them kind of get a deeper understanding. And then also, in a lot of businesses, a lot of jobs, this restaurant industry especially, people do work their way up, and
Yes.
they have aspirations to work in the industry and to kind of maybe someday start their own thing. So just getting that on the job, back of the house type of experience, or just understanding,
That's
appreciation.
invaluable, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, that seems like it would be very valuable to put out there. And so, 13 years with a successful place, that's great. Now, you also got into another place, which is Bigby's. So
He got it right.
I got it right this time. Yes, it's so hard when you have it in your head one way. But yeah. So I mean, why did you decide to get into the same business in a different place?
So, besides the sports bar in Hoffman Estates, I had opened up another restaurant in Mundelein in 2013, and we had a 5-year lease, so we did the whole 5 years there, and then unfortunately the landlord went into foreclosure, so we had to close the restaurant at the end of that 5-year lease because the note holder did not want to sign a new lease with us because they don't want to be a landlord.
Yeah.
So I had that place closed. And it was just really good timing on Bigby's. My girlfriend's family is in the amusement device industry.
Yeah,
and they have several customers, probably over 500 customers in the Chicagoland area. They do dartboards and jukeboxes and pool tables, things
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, it's big business.
And Bigby's was one of their customers,
Mm-hmm.
and they had obviously a relationship with Ed, who's the founder, the guy who started Bigby's, and Ed was going through some financial struggles, and my girlfriend's family had offered to him, would you be, do you need help? Would you like us to, step in and give you not only financial assistance, but some structure, because once again, everybody sees the front of the house, but
Yeah.
they don't realize the extent of what goes on the other side of the walls and how much has to happen. Everything from filing your sales tax every month to payroll to ordering beer, ordering liquor, ordering food, making sure stuff's not getting wasted. I mean, ordering all your supplies. Every single thing that you see inside of a restaurant, whether it be this table, whether it be a fork, whether it be a chair, a glass, there are hundreds of different options for those things.
Yeah.
You have to pick when you open up. You have to make a decision. Some places like the thin fry, some places like the thick fry, some places like
Yep.
crinkle cut.
Mm-hmm.
Portillo's is crinkle cut, and they're delicious. McDonald's is thin fries, they're delicious. But everybody has their different thing, what they like, what they don't like. So there's so many things that happen inside the restaurant that every day that somebody has to take care of. And Ed was, with the second location, was in over his head.
Yeah.
And it was difficult for him to manage the back. So they offered to him the financial help and the structure and the support on the back end to keep all of the things that all the people that walk in the door that they don't see.
Yeah.
That keep the lights on, that keep
Right.
the roof over the head, like you said, a little while ago. So Ed, of course, was interested. And
Yeah.
then they had called me and said, hey, because they knew that my restaurant in Mundelein was closing.
Yeah.
They said, well, would you want to do this? And I said, yeah. And that's how Bigbys, how I got involved with Bigbys.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. You know, some people, I've been talking about this with a bunch of other people. You overextend yourself a lot of times, you know, and it's very easy to do that when you're having success. When it's good, everything seems like it's going to be great forever.
Yes.
But it's not necessarily. There's ups and downs in any business, and a lot of people, because I've interviewed a couple restaurant owners, Mike and the guys at Daisy's already just recently, and we were just talking about this. I've seen restaurants that are great. They have great food. The people are nice. Great service, and you can't imagine how they could ever fail. I mean, because the food is, if you have good food, everybody thinks, well, let's just keep doing that. But then they open another location, and then they mismanage. And things, like you say, people aren't paying attention to the napkins anymore, and things are walking out of the door, and things are getting stolen, and all the things fall apart. So
and I think that's definitely in so many different businesses and types of businesses. The better things are, the less
you're not
tight you are.
Right.
When the money's coming and everybody is doing well, you're not, like you said, you're not worried, you're not watching anymore the little things, but you don't realize how much that bleeding affects your bottom line. And over the years, I'm sure you've seen restaurants that started this big and said, oh my gosh, we're so busy this big.
Yeah.
If we're busy this big, if we double it, we'll be twice as busy.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage is, but it's got to be big of the places that start here and go here and then fail.
Yeah.
For every one that we know of that took the leap and said, hey, we could do this, and they had the wherewithal and the structure to maintain and run the business properly. For every one of those that did it right, there's got to be 100 that
more, way more.
Yeah.
Decided
to expand and get bigger and said, oh my gosh, this was the worst mistake, because ultimately it is much better to have a small place that's always busy instead of a bigger place that you're fighting to make busy.
Right. Yeah. And that just goes with everything. I mean, when there's demand and there's scarcity, then there's more hype. Businesses like Supreme make their whole model on that. They make, I don't know if you know the clothing, they just release like a T-shirt. They'll do like 100 of them, and they charge $5,000 per T-shirt. It's nothing special. It's just a T-shirt and screen printed ink. But they can make that brand so popular and so
create the buzz.
It's the buzz. Yeah, it's not even the steak. It's all sizzle. And so that's an interesting thing. But at the same time, you obviously, any business owner always wants to be growing. So it makes sense to me how you got into what you're doing now. How do you keep yourself from falling into that trap of maybe getting comfortable and maybe overextending yourself? How do you keep yourself grounded?
It is tough. And I always tell people every day the bus is moving. Even with employees that, think that they might be able to hold you hostage, if you will. If they're, I'm not going to work, or what are you going to do without me? And I look at all of them and I go, every morning I wake up and the bus is moving. I don't have a choice. I am going to make happen whatever has to happen, whether it's me or I find somebody to do it. So it's, how do I keep myself out of that? It's hard. Like I said, I catch myself doing it. I couldn't look at you and say I don't do it. Yeah. I definitely find my comfort/lazy zone. And, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like doing this today. But, sometimes I did that, and then I had to be reactive to what that caused. Yeah. So if I decided on Monday I was going to postpone or procrastinate or do something,
Piles up quick.
I'm picking up the pieces on Tuesday because I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm guilty of it.
Everybody is.
I tend to procrastinate, and I know it, and
yeah.
It.
Well, and that's it's real. It's honest. I mean, everybody that's listening has an example of that somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's definitely good to hear. And it's not whether or not that's happening. It's how you deal with it.
Yeah,
you know.
That's exactly. You're gonna do it. Just how you deal with it.
So, give me a couple examples of like, I mean, was there a time where you were like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too much. You know,
No.
There wasn't, never?
I've never gotten to that point.
Wow.
So I live for the thrill, for the pressure.
Yeah.
Even though I procrastinate and I have my moments where I want to kick myself in the butt to get moving, I love I handle pressure very well.
Yeah.
So for me, it's never been oh man, what did I get myself into, or I don't want to do this. The grass is always greener. I don't care who you are, where you're from. Everybody sees what I do, because I think every single friend I've ever had in my life, and I have lifelong friends, have all worked for me in some capacity. And they've always, a lot of them have their corporate jobs, office jobs, whatever it may be. And I know a lot of them look and go, man, it'd be nice not to have to do anything. You know, they think it's the grass is greener on my side. And there's times that I look at it and be like, wow, I'd like to come home on Wednesday at 5:30 and know that I don't have to do anything.
Clock in and clock out.
Until the next morning when I show up at the office and do my job. And then the next day, come home at 5:30. And on Friday at 5:30, I have the whole weekend to do whatever I want and not worry about anything. Instead, they see my side and they go, oh, we want the freedom and the
there's no freedom here,
right?
And
they don't realize that on Friday, when you're thinking about going home from work, I'm thinking about what I'm heading into for the weekend, because I have the bars and I have the valet, so it's all happening. Like Fridays and Saturdays are when we're busy, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell people, the President of the United States has a phone next to his bed. Mm-hmm. That when there's a problem, it rings.
Yeah, he's waking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the boss, and he has to get calls at times.
Yeah.
And I have to explain to people that on Friday night at 10 o'clock at night, my phone might ring, and they might say, hey, we have a problem, or there's an issue or something. I have to take it.
Yeah.
It's not, and I don't mind. Like, I actually, once again, I like it. It's my business. It's what I do, and it doesn't bother me, even in the least. People are, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you, and I have to explain to employees all the time. It's honestly not a bother. Like, I appreciate it, because I'd rather answer this question now than pick up the pieces on Monday.
Well, and then on another note, at least you have somebody ringing your phone.
Right.
You know, that's a big thing. There's a lot of people that don't have somebody ringing their phone. And like, for instance, somebody that maybe is a small business owner that has no employees. You know, now it's like you got to be on it even more. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing. You know, there's lots of different types of businesses out there. They all have their type of ups and downs and facets to them. What would you say, because you've done this, since you were a kid, what would you say to somebody that was thinking about maybe getting into business? Doesn't have to be the restaurant business, but just doing something for themselves. What would be the 3 most important things that they can do now to prepare themselves for what will happen when that happens, if they take that leap?
Well, I always say initiative and drive. If you don't have initiative and drive, while I'm sitting here, I've already looked in this room at every corner of this room that we've been sitting here, and I see where something needed to be done, or if the chairs weren't stacked right, or whatever the situation may be. And if you don't have that initiative and that drive, it's going to be so much harder, because part of being a small business owner is knowing that there isn't really a job description.
Yeah.
You do everything.
Right.
So when I walk into any of my restaurants, or with the valet or whatever, I'll park cars, I'll make drinks, I'll pour beers, I'll clean tables, I'll pick up garbage off floors. Whatever needs to be done, I do it. It's nothing that somebody's going to say, oh, you still park cars? Yeah, if I get to one of my valet accounts and it's busy, I'm getting in a car and I'm parking it. I'm greeting people. I'm handing out tickets. I'm opening doors for people. So initiative and drive are, to me, two of the most important things. And I think that if somebody has a willingness to work, like we said earlier, not because you have a child, not because you have a bill, not because it's a willingness to work and do it. I think that's, I mean, obviously that's part of the initiative and the drive as well. But on a third thing, I know it's in the back of my head, and I'm sure I have an answer. Off the top of my head, I just, right now, those are the first two things that come to my mind.
I think that, yeah, I mean, we've touched on lots of different things, and I think the third thing is probably just that it thing that nobody can really put their finger on. You have to have that spark.
Yep.
And I don't think that anybody can truly define that. But I think it probably has a lot to do with, I'm doing this, I'm stubborn, and if I fail, it's on me, but that's not an option. So let's just do it, If you're not 100% in on it, then you're probably going to fail,
Yes.
because there's no parachute, and so that's interesting.
And I know this might sound really small and very insignificant in the big picture we're talking about, but I think a smile goes a long, long way.
Yeah.
I think when people have met me over the years, and I watch other people, a smile is a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're going to open up a business and you're going to be interacting with strangers you don't know, I think it's a very welcoming thing that whether you have a clothing store, whether you have a restaurant, whether you have a valet business, everybody wants to be around somebody that's being welcoming and nice. I think that's a big thing. So obviously not a big.
It doesn't seem big, but it is.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
I get it. Yeah,
and I tell my employees all the time. I go, you would be shocked at what a difference how you're received when you smile at them when they walk in and say, "Hey, how you doing tonight? Well, thanks for coming. What can I get you?"
Especially in hospitality service industry. I mean, if you're
but in any business, like I said, it could be a clothing store, it could be a car dealership, it could be anything.
Yeah.
When it gives you that nice person. Like,
yeah.
I want to talk
approachable.
Yeah. Exactly. I want to buy something from this person. I want to do this. I want to do that. So, but you're right. Hospitality.
It's like if you don't, then it's do or die with that. But no, I mean, I was in sales for I guess I still am, but for a long time. And one of the things is you could have a really, really great product, but there's somebody that probably has something similar to what you have, and the people buy you first. And there's people that are selling the same thing for the same price sitting right next to you, and you could have the same conversation with somebody, say exactly the same thing, but it's not about what you say, it's how you say it and how you come across. And I've also had people buy from me at a higher price, probably a not as good of a deal, a bargain, and they do it and they told me, well, I just like dealing with you. And that is something that is like, wow. And
it's huge.
Yeah. And that it makes it humbles you, and it shows you how important that relatability and how you what you do, what you put out in the world, how important that is for what you get back.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And also too, going along with what you're saying, I remember back when I was younger, I'd said I would get a job wherever my friends were working or whatever.
Sure.
And I remember my friends who didn't have jobs, and they would say, there's no one hiring, and so-and-so got a job here, and I wanted to get a job there.
Yeah.
And I remember telling people I could almost walk into any place. Obviously, it's not going to be a lawyer or an accountant,
sure,
or a doctor, but any other retail or anything in the Schaumburg land area and get a job. They don't have to have a hiring sign up. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to introduce myself.
There's
say how much
something.
I'm working, and there's going to be that, like we talked about earlier, that draw, that connection. Say, wow, this kid's got some drive.
Well,
You
people
know?
see value.
Yeah.
People recognize value when they see it. A lot of times, some people don't, but smart people do.
So that simple, like we said with sales, that simple knock on the door of,
Yeah.
hey, how you doing? I'm here.
Yeah.
And
What's next?
All of a sudden, the now hiring sign is you're hiring, or
Yeah.
like you said, you're selling something that they met 10 other people, and especially in the restaurant industry, like I said, we get 15 different people trying to sell us straws.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, they're all the same exact product. They're all made of plastic. They're all within pennies of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you go with? And a lot of times it's going to come down to, it's my friend, or I like this guy, whatever the
They're easy to
situation
deal with.
Mm-hmm.
It's not headache. You're not getting bugged. It's a simple transaction.
Yes.
Streamline is better a lot of times. And so the transition that I wanted to get into about how it's what you put out there. It's even when you're doing something similar, because there's lots of bars and restaurants. There's lots of people that do craft beers. What sets Bigby's apart?
Well, I would say one of the big things about Bigby's is that it's a craft beer bar, not a brewery. It's a craft beer bar, so you can come there and get any number of different breweries. We try to go local as much as we can with local breweries that are in the area.
Sure.
But one of the nicest things about it is that you can, if you like craft beer, you can walk in there and find something delicious that you will like, because that's what we focus on, is craft beers. We also have a full liquor menu.
And that's new too, right?
Mhm.
Tell us about that a little bit.
And my partner Ryan, spent a lot of time looking for local distilleries, local wineries, and we really came up with a great selection of wines, liquors, and beers for the people that are looking to support local, that are looking for the mom and pop place that they can go to. It's very comfortable. It's a comfortable setting, comfortable environment, and enjoy some great local products from, might be their neighbor that's making the beer.
Guy down the street.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and those are the best things. Those gems that you can't find anywhere else.
Right.
So that is definitely something that sets you apart.
And the places aren't big. They're very small. They're very quaint, and you don't feel that overpowered walking into a 7,000-8,000 square foot restaurant where you just feel like you're.
You feel like you're in a Walmart that sells fancy stuff.
Right. So these places are nice because they give you that comfortable one-on-one with your bartender, and conversation and food and drink.
And what are your hours?
So Rolling Meadows every day opens up at 4:00, and we close at midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and then on Friday open till 2, and on Saturday open till 3.
Gotcha. And
Pedersen is open at 11 a.m. every day.
Oh, okay.
And we close at midnight, Sunday through Thursday, and 2:00 on Friday and Saturday.
Gotcha. And now you don't just do beer and alcohol and wine. You also have some eats as well.
Correct. And we like to consider it, Ryan's girlfriend Mel came up with the idea of a creative cuisine, because it's basically what it is, almost like a tapas style food fare. So we have, like, one of my favorite things is called pro sushi, and we take these layers of prosciutto, lay them out, and then we layer it with some arugula and then some fresh mozzarella, and we roll it so it looks like a sushi roll. And we cut them into little sushi roll size pieces, and we serve them with like an Italian vinaigrette dipping sauce dressing. And
Sounds really good.
And they're delicious. like I said, my favorite thing on the menu.
Mm-hmm.
Pizzas, flatbreads, a lot of different types of pizzas that you wouldn't normally see on a menu. We have an elotes egg roll. So, elotes is a Mexican corn. We put it inside of an egg roll wrapper and we deep fry it.
Wow,
So
that's interesting.
Those are delicious.
Anything that has to do with elote, though, I'm pretty sure I'm with it.
Yeah.
Especially, if you fry anything as well, it's
Yeah,
even better.
exactly. And then we have these things called casalingo chips. They are a very high-grade, high-end Italian, similar to like a pepperoni, but like a sopressade. And we slice them thin, slice the casalingo thin, and then we deep fry them, and they turn into like a chip.
Oh, wow.
And it's a spicy meat. And we serve those with a delicious dipping sauce, too. Those have been probably our best-selling appetizer.
That sounds interesting, too.
Mm-hmm.
Those are definitely things that, you don't see everywhere. And I think that's an important kind of draw. Even if it's not for everybody, if there's something for somebody there, something to try. And everybody likes pizza, right?
Yeah.
So there's always something. But beer and interesting things. Now, do you change your items regularly, or is it something that you just perfect and keep
so the beer is constantly changing.
Gotcha.
You could come in today and see a beer on the menu, and tomorrow it's gone. And the crazier part is that brewery may not make it again.
Yeah.
It might be 2 months before we could even get our hands on it before they make it again. A lot of seasonal brews, like right now we're coming into the holiday season. So one of our breweries is making a Christmas IPA that we'll be carrying very soon.
Gotcha.
And when that's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
They might only make 100 kegs of it. And if you bought a keg, if there are any more in the warehouse when that one runs out, it's gone. So we use a platform called Untapped. We don't actually have a paper beer menu inside the restaurants.
Okay.
It's a digital platform that you can get the app on your phone and anytime see what we have for our beer selection. So if you're looking for something specific before you go to Bigby's, you could actually look and say, wow, they have the IPA milkshake that I want. I'm going there tonight for that.
Yeah.
So and it changes too frequently to try to maintain it with the paper menu that we'd be constantly.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with Untapped. I use it for some of my customers too, and you can find you can actually find the links to the Untapped menu for both locations at Bigby's PH. That's Bigby's Poorhouse, basically. BigbysPH.com. You can check out those menus there, and there's lots of different things. He's not joking. There's lots of different options, and when you don't have paper menus because the selection changes often, no stale beer, and good selection, good taste. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And what do you have coming up?
So we decided to start doing a brewery of the month. So every month there is going to be a different brewery that we highlight, and we're going to carry at least 2 of their drafts on draft. Two of their brews on draft. And one of the cool things about doing these programs is that encourages the breweries to come out and do samplings with the customers. So if you're somebody that's thinking about, you see a beer that you're interested in, but you don't want to try a whole glass of it.
Yeah.
When they do these tastings, you get to come out and try the different ones that they have, and they sample them to you for free.
Sure.
And the Brewery of the Month program encourages the breweries to come out and do that. And
so I'd assume there's be promotions, T-shirts, things like that coming out.
And they give away all kinds of swag.
Yeah.
And then what we do besides doing the Brewery of the Month program, what we do to encourage sales of that product, we run a special price on it. So it's a nice, because some of the beers are expensive.
Yeah, sure.
You could pay for a 9-ounce pour of some things. Sometimes you could pay $8-9 for just an 8 or 9 ounce pour because the alcohol content is higher and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about the program we're running is it's an affordable drink,
and you can taste lots of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Hang out.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, so are you doing anything to work with the local places in the area?
In terms of other bars?
Yeah, other bars in the area. Like, are you teaming up with them? Because I know that there's a couple events going on this weekend. Since we're recording on, in October here, not exactly sure what the release date for this is going to be, but I know that you're doing some things, teaming up with some other places in the area. Do you have anything coming up, for maybe St. Patrick's Day or anything like that?
Yeah, so we're doing the pub crawl for this weekend, October 26th, and then we're thinking that we would do another pub crawl in March for St. Patrick's Day. And we would team up with Stadium, Reps, Bulldog, and of course us Bigbys.
Awesome. Now, that's an interesting thing because, the other places, we're at Reps right now, which is a great place. He's a friend of mine, and I'm happy to be here. But one of the things is a lot of businesses think that, oh, well, they sell beer, they sell food, they're competition, they're bad. And that's wrong. That's a mistake. What are some of the benefits of working with the other places in the area?
Well, I think it's important for restaurants in general to see the culture that you're creating in that town by having more restaurants and more bars. Becomes a destination for people who may not live in Rolling Meadows who would want to come to Rolling Meadows because there's so many different places to choose from and so many different options. So I agree. You can't look at it as competition. You have to look at it as though, hey, we're all in this together. And the more people we draw here, that word will spread. Like, wow, we went to Rolling Meadows and they had this and they had that and they had this. And that spreads. And more people want to come and see what that buzz is all about and why what's going on. Like, did you hear about John going to that place in Rolling Meadows? That the place was busy, and then they went over to this place. Yeah, and it creates a real nice community here of business that I think every community needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you go into the downtown areas of Arlington Heights or Palatine. Yeah. There's restaurants and bars everywhere. Mm-hmm. It's not competition in between each individual one. It's inevitably, we're human. We're not going to want to go to Bigby's every single day.
Yeah, of course.
We're not going to want to go to Reps every single day. We want something different. We want to try different things, meet some new people. Right. So, I mean, luckily and fortunately for us, Reps and Stadium and Bulldog and us, we have our regular customers that, they're there probably 4 or 5 days a week, and we're grateful for them.
Absolutely.
But still, at the end of the day, it's nice to give some other options for people to try different things and see different places. Yeah, that's great. And this town has needed that for a while, so it's great that you guys are in the area. So, a really great conversation. Everybody, again, you can check out Bigbys. They got 2 locations. 1649 Algonquin Road in Rolling Meadows, and then also 1700 West Lake Street in Addison. Wherever you happen to be, check them out, and check out their untapped menus on their website at bigbysph.com. Yep. Dave, I really appreciate you coming on. Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and we'll be talking again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.